Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into some really profound writings, the Bahá'í Sacred Writings, to explore a question that's, it's really at the heart of faith itself. And that question is, what defines a true believer? I mean, so many philosophies and faiths have tackled this one, right? But the Bahá'í Sacred Writings, they have a really unique and powerful perspective. So let's kick things off by seeing how they frame this whole search for truth. Okay, so right at the start, these texts lay out a fundamental problem. It's all about our human need for proof, for signs, and how differently people react when they think they've found them. And this is where we see the core dilemma, this paradox that's played out throughout history. People are always demanding signs, demanding proof. But the writings point out that even when those signs are revealed, a lot of folks just stay, and this is the text's word, heedless. They just dismiss it. But then the writings draw this really sharp contrast. So on one side, you've got the heedless, right? But on the other, you have who they call the truly sincere. And for this group, it's not about some external sign at all. It's about an internal light of understanding. It's that light that lets them see and embrace the truth. And this raises a really fascinating question, doesn't it? Is faith just a choice, or is it something more, like an innate ability to understand that some people just have? Okay, so what's the big deal about being a true believer then? According to these writings, why does this distinction even matter so much? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because the texts make some, honestly, extraordinary claims about their whole purpose and destiny. Get this, the writings suggest that the true believer's very existence is the originating purpose of all creation. I mean, that is a huge paradigm-shifting idea, right? We're not just talking about being a part of creation. We're talking about being the very reason for it. And it goes deeper. This is where the idea of the believer's immortality comes in. Their existence isn't seen as this temporary, fleeting thing. No, it's directly tied to the eternal nature of faith itself. Think about it. Faith has no beginning and no end. And the text says, in the same way, neither does the true believer. And just when you think the claim can't get any bigger, it does. This isn't just about living a long time. This is talking about an existence that literally mirrors the permanence of God, a spirit that will everlastingly circle around the will of God. Wow. So what does that final destiny look like? The text paints a really vivid picture. It's this place completely beyond the reach of death, a realm of immortality. And it says the loftiest mansions are there, just waiting for them. Okay, so all of this naturally leads to a big question, right? What exactly is the relationship between the believer, all of creation, and God? How are we supposed to understand all that? Well, thankfully, the text gives us a really clear analogy to help break it down. So the first step, the absolute starting point for a true believer, is this: understanding that you can't compare God to anything human. God is, as the text says, immeasurably exalted above all that. To mistake the things that were created for the Creator, well, that's seen as a huge error. And to make this super clear, the writings give us this really simple, easy-to-grasp analogy. Just think about a craftsman and what they've made, or a painter and their painting. The text asks a simple question: can the thing they created ever actually be the same as them? Can the painting be the painter? Well, the answer is pretty obvious, right? Of course not. The painting is not the painter. But that painting tells you so much about the painter, doesn't it? It shows you their skill, their vision, their mastery. And the text says creation works in exactly the same way. It's not God, but it's the evidence, the sign that points to the excellence and perfection of its author. Okay, so if that's the understanding you need to have, what's the path? What do you actually do? The writings boil it all down to one single core concept. And that concept is self-surrender. It's defined as completely merging your own will into the will of God. It really means setting aside your own ego, your own desires, and just seeing them as, well, as nothing compared to a higher purpose. Now, to make this idea really concrete, not just some abstract thing, the writings give a pretty dramatic example. It comes from the prayer of fasting. And it imagines this hypothetical command: you are to fast with absolutely no end date. So what's the response of a true believer to that? The text is crystal clear. They would follow that command faithfully, even if it meant they would yield up their souls.
I mean, that is a powerful image of absolute, unwavering obedience. And this example, it's not just a story. It's being presented as the very essence of what complete surrender actually means. It's the ultimate test, the ultimate proof that you've merged your will with the divine.
And so, this is where it all leads. The ultimate conclusion of these writings is that self surrender isn't just some nice to have virtue, it's the highest possible spiritual state you can achieve. And that leaves us with a pretty challenging question to think about, doesn't it? In a world that's so driven by our own self interest, our own desires, what does it truly mean to live a life of complete surrender?